Alright, so here on the live stream, plan is to get some work done. I've got these 3 trees here that I want to take out. Alright, so because they're a little close. Here on the live stream, plan is to get some work done. I've got these 3 trees here that I want to take out. Alright, hold on, because they're a little close. Here on the live stream. Alright. So sorry about that. I was getting some feedback of hearing myself there, which I didn't need. Although it is helpful to see the stream. So again, I apologize. I said I'd probably be fumbling around a little bit here. And that is in fact what I'm doing. So give me a second, because I think I can mute the YouTube. Probably be fumbling around. There we go, and that'll let me see that. So alright, so hopefully we're in good shape now. So I'm going to go ahead and start this work. Just take all 3 of these down right away so that I've got them taken care of, and then I can just eliminate them as I need to. There we go. Birch trees are always fun. So it's a challenge trying to get these with the right angle. Alright, and if I can get this one, I think that will be most of what I can do on this tree. And we'll do the same with the other 2. These were different kinds of trees, but they're not, so there we go. Tree work is always so fun, but the only time we can do it is in the winter on FSN servers, so this is going to be a real challenge on this, that's for sure. And get rid of this one. Alright. So that's 2 trimmed up pretty well. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to run these over to the wood chipper, because I've determined over time that I'd get about the same for hauling the wood chips back that I do for trying to take logs back. So, and I need something to pick logs up with, so the wood chipping has just become the simpler thing to do. That's not what I hoped for. Let's see if we can get some of this to go away. Alright, hopefully that's enough. And take this one out. Alright, and got a couple more here. Alright, so I'm going to start slicing this up into hopefully manageable pieces, and then we'll carry them to the wood chipper. Definitely not quite how I figured that would go. Birch trees are always a lot of fun. So that's one way to describe it. Let's see. They also need to fit in the wood chipper, so... that's gonna work. Alright. So let me see if I can get these in. Good news is they're small enough that I can carry. Oops. So, yeah, I don't know that we have anybody on. So, we'll see if anybody joins, but we'll turn this on. And that should get us crushing and dumping, so I have everything positioned correctly. That's great. Alright. And so that's the process for now, is just taking these pieces and getting them chipped up. Well, we'll see if it works. It's always fun trying to get these off-shape ones into things, but it usually works out. I'm not sure. It thinks I'm in the air or something. It won't give me the hand. There we go. Alright. So, and this is exactly why I tend to do it this way, where I just pick them up and shred them, because otherwise you're trying to get trees that normally are not that easy to oh goodness, come on. Are normally not that easy to do easily, and just so hard to walk without then dropping. I don't understand why Farming Simulator does this, but it does. So, apologize for the challenge, but we've got 3. There may be a 4th one that I do, depending on how the day goes. The other problem we've got is we did not get to finish the hemp harvest. As you can see, it's still wet, and I've got about half of field 29 that I was unable to take off, so it was disappointing. Go. I always love when it does that. Alright, is that one going to go now, or is it going to get tossed again? Okay. We have more? Yeah, we have a little bit more. And then at the end, we'll have to grind the stumps. The good thing is it's at least daylight here, so you can see them. Alright, one down. See, I've got a couple here to trim down. Hopefully that will work. Come on. There we go. Probably be too big, but I'm going to give it a try. So this one definitely looks thicker. So, let's see. Oh, amazingly, I can pick that one up. That's good. I think I dropped it. I did. So it seems like if you keep it in the field of view, it works a little bit better. When I come straight on, I tend to try to just throw them. But yeah, we're still going to have to take the wood chips over to St. Simon's or St. Stephen's or whatever it is. There's a wood chip pile over there. Oops. Up here now. And it's not going to go, is it? Nope, of course not. This one might be a little too... I might have left it a little too configured up here. Let's see. It still won't go. Come on. Chop it up. I think because I've got too many things sticking out here, it's just... It's alright. I'd rather I be able to get rid of it than worry about exactly how much I'm getting for it. Alright, that'll definitely go. I can usually hear the shredding in the background, so I know it's working. Alright, it's telling me I can pick it up, but then it won't. Or is it telling me I can't object too heavy? Alright. I guess it's just giving me a hand. I'm just used to it giving me a red hand if it's too heavy. But obviously it's not doing that this time. Alright, so this is normally what I'll do, is I'll come over to the side. There we go. That's the thing I do like about the wood chipper, is it does tend to just kind of figure out how to handle it. So let's see. It probably did not end up where I wanted it to. Nope. There we go. Couple more and we'll have this tree done. Alright, I did hear that one go, and this one should definitely be fine. Just a tiny little piece. We'll have to cut that other one up. Tripped over something. Probably my own 2 feet, but there we go. Alright, we'll cut this in half just to be sure. It's still too heavy? Do I have like more in the ground? I must. Just wondering if that fell in some way that... Alright, let's see. Now it's telling me I can take them. Oh, because it's got it broken into 2 pieces, so those are definitely smaller. I was gonna say, I think I felt that one drop. Alright, go back and get one more. Come on. There we go. Oh, it started to go down the path, or the belt, but I see it's sitting there, so I'm gonna have to go and fix it. Goodness gracious. This is always difficult. This is not one of my favorite jobs by far, so I'm not a fan of cutting trees. Which is why I do not do a logging map. Alright, let me get this last one chopped up. I'm not doing too badly, I think. Let's see if it'll let us do this. It will, alright. Awesome. Same thing. A long cut. I'm guessing that's going to be too big, but I'm going to try it. Because if I don't need to cut it, now I may need to just to get it in the wood chipper, but I am going to give it the good old college try, because I'd prefer not to have to deal with this, and it's like if I can get it in with this end, I think I'll be alright. So that will be the trick. Let's see. Come on. Ah. Let's see. Is it up there? Did it totally? Oh. Like, did it totally vanish? I don't know. This may be... Let me just clean this up. I was hoping against hope, and I think I'm just wasting time. It's just these birch trees, like, they all stay in one piece. That'll definitely go. It's at least more reasonable. Did I go too far? A little bit. At least I didn't throw it off the track, though. Alright. Why are you not picking up? Object too heavy. Again, there must be something stuck in the ground. Alright, well, that's one way to get rid of it, I guess. That one's too heavy, too. That one is not. So I guess let me clean up what I can. So I'm hoping folks are having a good afternoon. I don't see anybody in the chat, so I'm thinking I might not have any watchers right now, which is alright. I'm not that big of a channel. But I did want to thank those of you that have subscribed. If you watch this later, definitely appreciate it. Sorry you were unable to make it. If you had wanted to kind of participate and chat while I did some work here, which would have been great. I know when we were doing some tests earlier this week, we did have some folks drop in. But again, I know it's a Sunday afternoon here in the States. It may be difficult for people to get away. So it's another thing. If you guys are interested in live streams, but if there's a better time for you. Hey, I see Ginga Ninja. Hi, how you doing? Welcome. So I'm cleaning up some trees here, just to give you an idea of what's happening, as if you can't tell that I'm logging, but I had 3 fields along the field here that always get in the way when I am turning. So I had decided I want to get rid of them, and in FSN we're only allowed to cut down trees in the winter. So this is always winter work, and it worked out great this year that early winter happened to fall on a Sunday. So I'm able to get this work done and do it as part of a live stream. I've got a few other things to get done, so this is the last of the 3 trees. Yeah, here in FSN, I've decided it's easier to wood chip than cut and deliver. So if you're wondering why I'm doing it this way, that is why. Because over time I've learned the hassle of trying to cut things and get them on a trailer and deliver them for sale gets me no more money than if I just wood chip these and deliver wood chips. Now we're going to have one of those. Sometimes they dance. There we go. So once I'm done with this, I'm going to do some work on the other side of the field with a plow. So I've got some field work there, and luckily we're 1 degree away, I think, from the ground being frozen, so it's going to let us do that. I was working with one of the other guys on the server this morning to get that ready and planned out. I think I'm going to be able to do that. So that's the next order of business here, once I'm done with these trees. But these trees were left over from when I cleared 97. Initially, when I bought this field, this corner was forested. So I took this off, or cleared this off, early on right when I bought these fields, at this point probably 10, 12 game years ago. This one's too heavy to move, so I'm going to have to cut it down somewhere. So let me do it here. Let's see if I can pick those up now. Yep. So hopefully the last 2 pieces. Always a challenge. So I'm hoping you can hear me fine. I did test the audio before, but sometimes things get a little wonky. Alright, so let me turn the chipper off. And the next thing we need to do is grind those stumps. So I've got the tractor with a stump grinder here. So if you're not familiar with FSN, aside from only being able to do this in the winter, we also need to pay a permit for every tree we take down. So it costs us $750 for every tree we cut down. I think that kind of keeps people from cutting down trees that maybe they don't necessarily need to, because there is some cost involved, and a lot of times you just make up enough. Why will the stump cutter not turn on? I might not have the hoses connected. No, there aren't. Oh, the PTO. Alright. There we go. Now it's spinning. Usually I'm not as good at this as I just was, so that's probably a first. To clear this out, I had to take out about 50 trees. I did that over about 3 winters. So 3 trees is nothing. And I guess I've gotten good at it, because I think I've gotten this all done in about half an hour, which sometimes is how long it took me for a tree, but we were also dealing with the tall pines, and carrying those sometimes takes a little longer, because especially the end, you've got to really cut. And this is going to be the typical stump where I'm going to play with it. Oh, did it go away? Just make sure. Oh, looks gone. Okay. So that was pretty quick. Alright, so what that will allow is when I'm planting or harvesting next time, I've just got the normal trees that are along the edge. Turn off the tractor so I'm not wasting gas. And then we will go deliver these 8,700 liters of wood chips to the wood chip area. And then we'll head on over to where I have the harvester and the tractor. So if you got any questions for me, Ginga, let me know. I'm happy to answer as I go along. Especially if FSN is something you're not part of, there may be some questions as to what something is or why we do what we're doing. Because the servers have unique rules. So the wood chip sell point is here. It's a little bit tricky with these double trailers because the trigger is almost, it's not really inside the fence, but sometimes it feels like it is with as close as I need to get. So hopefully this will work. Of course not. Why not? Normally, I'm okay with this. Let me see if I angle that back a bit. It is just not going to let me do this. Wood chip's not accepted here. Did they change this? I don't know. I don't know that we've had this point here before. Maybe I need to interact with this. Well, this is not going to be good. There we go, sell wood. Did it sell? I don't think it did. Well, that's not good. So I've definitely been able to do it before. As I said, I've done 40 or 50 trees, so... Alright, I'm going to try something here. This is not great. It's going to be more work than I'd prefer, but sometimes you've got to play those games with this. So I'm going to detach my pup trailer. And just head in there with the individual trailer, and if it doesn't take it then I really have a problem, because I do not think there's another sell point on the map for wood chips. It's not going to take them. Yeah, I've never had that happen. This was like the easiest part of the whole deal. Well, I'm gonna just take it at some point, maybe ask the other folks, but yeah, if I go to sell wood, it's not, because I don't have wood, it's not taking those. But I don't know if somehow these got modified. Alright. So obviously, we don't have BGAs in FSN, so I can't I think in single player you can sell wood chips to the BGA, but I can't do that. So I've got 8,700 liters of wood chips that I'm going to have to find a home for. And hopefully I can connect this up. There we go. Alright, well, I'm going to take this back to the farm because I can't leave it here. Before I go, I'm going to see if somehow it'll take it there, but I don't think it will. Maybe that's what they did, is they moved the sell point. Nope. Oh, hold on. Actually, nope. Didn't have the right trailer selected at that point. And I'm assuming this is just hay, but at this point I'm going to try every trigger point I see. But they've never had a trigger point down on the ground. Yep, it's not giving me that either. One more try going this way. Right, well, we've wasted enough time trying to do that. So maybe if I get one of the other folks from the server, one of the other FMs jumps on. I know they said they might pop in on the stream to either see if I need any help or they may need some help. I'll ask them if they know of any changes that were made that I somehow missed. But for now, I'm just going to put this here. I'm not going to leave the truck here if I need to deal with this beyond today. But for now, this is good enough. There's nothing in the field that'll grow or anything. Alright, so job number 2. So I'm going to look at this from above. It's probably easier to explain. So I've got this corner, and these are how this field worked when I had this. And you can see the way the shape of the field is. It sticks out quite a bit here. And it's not a smooth edge all the way down. So when I line up by the street, I'm always having to remember that there's a little extra edge of the field here. So what I'm going to do is plow this field and widen it so that it's flat with this edge. The reason I have the harvester up here is I was worried that I might clip the trees when I'm running the harvester. And the plan would have been to trim some branches if that was the case, but in running my test, it worked just fine at the line that I was going to plow. So I'm going to go ahead and get my GPS set up because there's no way I'm going to do this job without the GPS keeping me honest and keeping me straight. Because this is also one of the higher stakes things within FSN because unlike a single player server, if I make a mistake here, I can't reload my save game. This is a make or break thing, kind of like in the real world. Like, you plow up a field and you make a mistake, unless you're going to seed it up and plant grass again in the real world, you're kind of stuck with what you got. So that's exactly how this works too in FSN. So I need to be careful that I kind of have it where I want it. I think that looks okay, because once I drop this plow, I'm digging. So here we go. Oh, I didn't actually, so we're not quite digging because I didn't do allow create fields. Now I did. Good news is nothing popped out. So let's just make sure. I guess it was a little bit further out, but that's alright. A tiny bit of extra field works. Alright, so at this point, we can then run this the length of the field. And I have then got a nice straight edge down this field, which I have not had. So you can see right up here near the trailer, it came in a bit. I think it actually moves in a little bit further up. But you can see I've got, you know, quite a bit that I'm cutting into that I always moved in. So if I set my GPS line the other way before, I'd always then not be lined up at the ends. And this work we can do, like if I need to widen a field, there's no limit of that we must do this in the winter. I could have done this at any point, but I figured for the live stream, if I would be able to do it, that would be a little bit more interesting than just watching me cut trees down. So luckily the weather worked. So the good news is then it will you know, it'll fix this problem then for my next time, but I will run this harvester down this line just to be sure, because once again, since I can only cut trees in the winter, if I suddenly find out I've got an overhanging branch that my harvester gets hung up on, I won't be able to cut it until next winter. So I'd rather avoid that, which is why I left the harvester up here. And I'm going to try to round this corner off too. It's not going to be perfect because of the way this plow is built, so this plan might not work. Alright. Yeah, I don't want to go too far and then have a problem. It just may not be worth. You know what? I'm not gonna chance it, because it's that little tiny bit just really isn't worth the time to go ahead and do that. And then kind of mess up what I was trying to do. So we'll count that good enough. But that's been kind of also a sore point for me for many, many game years. And so I'm happy to have that done. So, no, I don't actually need to run this all the way back, because I got to run this back to my storage down on 30. So I'm going to actually leave that here. Jump up to my harvester. We'll run our test, and then I'm going to run the equipment down to store it for the winter, because there's nothing else I can do, even if somehow by grace I get the ability to do the hemp harvest. I can't use this harvester, so alright, let me get rid of my offset. And then I'll line up. It looks like I actually was a tiny bit wide, so that plow might have moved over a bit, but that's alright. It's just one of those. It's just really hard to get it absolutely correct. Right, and in this case, I want to get that here. And I'm really just testing the tree overhangs, so I'm okay not being lined up immediately. And the goal is to not get stuck as we go along here. Hey Random Zara, nice to have you here. Hope you're having a good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you're from. So, I've finished cutting some trees. I'm now testing my widening of my field, or my straightening of my field, to make sure my harvester doesn't get hung up on any trees. Because there was a little concern when me and another FM looked at it this morning that there might be some branches that get in the way, but it looks like we're clear, so that's great. The reason I'm doing that, it may seem like a strange thing, but we can only cut trees during the winter in FSN. So if I had a problem, I would not be able to fix it until winter again. Connect my hose here so that I can unfold my harvester, or my header for transport. Now I need to disconnect the hose so I can disconnect the header. And then I'm going to get these back down and store them, because that's all I needed them for here right now. So, attach the header. Alright, we'll take that down to 30 and store it. And then I will take the truck down. I don't know where else I could possibly try to sell wood chips other than the sell point I tried to sell at that wouldn't take them. Hey Cholin, how you doing? So FSN is a farm simulator network. It's a multiplayer community that was created a couple years ago at this point. We just passed the second anniversary a few months ago. And so at this point with FS22, we've got about 200 servers now that are in the community. And so this server that I work on, that I'm a farm manager on, is server 48. And there's usually six slots available for farm managers per server. So basically across 200 servers, that means we could have up to 1,200 farm managers that could be present in the network at any given time. And the servers run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so they're persistent. And they run in real time. It's hard to see with the time in the sky, but if I put it down on the field, you can see it's running at 1 times. Servers are set at different time zones. This server happens to run directly on Eastern time. So it's a little bit fast, I think, because we can only sync up to the top of the hour, and we try to do that as close as we can. So I'm the mayor on the server, which basically means I pay the sponsorship fee to keep the server running, which is $25 a month. But then the other farm managers are able to play on the server, and there's no obligation that they pay anything. So if you aren't looking to spend money, you can still be a farm manager in FSN for free. You'll just have to find an open slot. And there's a whole process for getting into FSN and getting accepted. But once you're in, after 30 days, you can apply to be a farm manager, and you can run your own farm on the servers. So there's 5 of us on this server, I think. So I've just got, one of the sets of fields here, but there's 4 other folks on the server here that manage various aspects. So this is my hemp field that unfortunately is too wet to get the rest off of. And this is my main farm, for those who may not have seen the videos in the series. If you want more details on it, I definitely encourage you to watch the first episode. I go through a lot of details about the farm and about FSN in general too. But hopefully that gives you enough information, Cholin, to kind of understand what FSN is. But if not, let me know and I'll answer any other questions you've got about it. Alright. So I'm going to hop back up, get my truck, or get my tractor first. Yeah, I got to bring that down too. So yeah, the other work I've got left to do for the winter here is I need to top off and get my supplies ready for the spring in my supply silos that are back here up on 97. So those white silos that'll come in view over there, where I've got my seeds, my fertilizer, and so forth. Yeah, I just saw your note, Cholin. So it doesn't technically stop us from cutting trees in summer, but there's a penalty from the managers of the community. So there's an operations and asset group, and there's what are called wardens, which are volunteers that monitor activity on the servers. And I believe they can run reports that say if trees were being cut down in off months, and then basically you'd get fined within the system to do that. So one of the other things that is important to note, because otherwise it leads to the next question, like how do you get fined and so forth. So the nice thing with FSN is there's a website that basically operates this whole other world attached to the server that lets you do other things within Farming Simulator. So as opposed to a single player game or a lot of multiplayer games that don't have this structure, like I harvested oats and I'm harvesting hemp, so I've got to sell those this year. Normally in single player, the only place you can sell them is within the server itself. But within FSN, you've got two other options. You can do what's called direct sell, which basically creates kind of a role play of I'm selling it to a next door town or something. And so they'll offer me a different price via direct sell that may be higher or lower than what I can get on the server. And then the other option you have is every server is connected to a city in the world. So ours happens to be Baku, Afghanistan, or Azerbaijan, I'm sorry. And so I own a warehouse in Baku, and I can send my crop to the warehouse, and then I can sell it through the resource exchange in the warehouse. So there's actually 3 ways for me to sell crops in FSN. With regard to the new question you just put up about the lag, yeah, it's a lag thing. And just with everything going on in the summer, you know, people will be planting, sometimes you'll be harvesting. Like I was actually able to start harvesting in early summer this year. Just having logging going on in the server hits performance and can cause the servers to crash. So on non-logging servers, they limit logging to winter. So if you do really love logging, there are a few servers that are logging servers where you can log year-round, and they have slightly different rules, and obviously, you know, they're built on, you know, raising trees and just logging a bunch of things. But you can have a farm here with trees. You're just then cutting them down in the winter when they come to maturity. So the guy across the street from me at 97 Wild Moose Farms, that field across the street was all poplars when he started. He's now turned it into grass because he's doing cows. So yeah, there's a lot of really fun things with FSN that make it a lot more interesting than just playing plain Farm Simulator. You know, along with just what you guys witnessed here of me plowing that field, and I can't go back to a saved game if I mess it up, so you gotta be real careful with certain things, because there's no do-overs. Alright, I think I'll just leave this down here. Jump out of the tractor too fast before I turn it off. So I'm just curious if the ground's getting any... Nah, it's been at 23% for a couple hours, so thinking unfortunately I'm gonna lose this crop that's on the field. What did I do with my truck? You know what? I'm going to need the tractor up there to take the stump puller back. Oops. Now I'm hitting the wrong keys. Sorry about all that jumping around in the map. I swear I brought the truck back here. Alright. This happens sometimes to me. I forget where I put my vehicles. So, let me see. And so on the FSN map, it does get to be a bit challenging because, oh, that's right, I parked it in front of the house. Because you can see other vehicles, and you can see all the other farm managers' vehicles, and there's also FSN vehicles. So, you can't just tab. I mean, you can tab through things, but you're going to end up in vehicles other than yours as well. So, Cholin on Hastings, no, I have not actually revisited that after the 2 episodes I posted. I did pull down, if you've seen the 3rd video I put up related to that, the new update to the map was released yesterday. I did pull that down, and I have that set up in my directory, but I haven't even tried to load that up yet. I'm not sure if I need a new save game with that. The map name has changed, so I'm thinking it might require that, which is even a little bit more of a disincentive right now to me to jump back on there, because I spent a couple days, almost all day, doing what I did on Hastings, and the thought of doing that all over again is not appealing at this point. And as I've mentioned, depending on how much of those videos you watched, because FSN is all real-time and there's no automation really allowed other than GPS, like we can't use auto drive, we don't have auto drive available, we don't have course play available. You have to do all the work yourself. And so Hastings just seemed very, very similar to FSN that way, where it's like, alright, I'm spending 8 to 10 hours on this map running a field, and I'm like, I already do enough of that in FSN, and this map is way more interesting to me than Hastings was, because the fields are just too big in Hastings to do that way. You almost have to automate it if you're playing it in single player. Yeah, I just saw the rest of your note. I didn't have an frames per second problem, and that could be because the PC that I play on, I just bought in April, and it's I kind of maxed out almost everything, including the video card and the RAM and so forth, and the CPU. So I just haven't had an issue of you know, I've got a problem now because I need this truck to, oh boy, to get my supplies. So not being able to get rid of these wood chips is really now a problem. And I don't have a front loader or anything if I dump them on the ground to pick them up later. Goodness gracious. Let me look at the map, but I'm almost positive there's no other sell points for wood chips that I'm aware of, because we don't have a sawmill or anything. I mean, that's really it, is St. Stephen's. But let me look at... I guess we do have a sawmill. Look at that. Alright. Well, we're going to go exploring, because I don't know where this sawmill is. Not sure. That might have made them go away. That's the bale barn. Oh, that is the sawmill. Alright, let me tag it. Whoops, why did it not let me tag it? There we go. Alright, so back here, and you know what? This is where it sent me before, but there is not a trigger point there. But we'll try it since it's telling me it's there, because I need to get rid of these wood chips. Oh, I can't pick the truck if it's not on the map. And you know what? I think I may have solved my own problem. Because I just remembered my hoses weren't connected when I got out. And if my hoses weren't connected when I pulled up to the wood chip pile, I wouldn't get the trigger. So once again, sometimes I create my own problems. So yeah, with manual attach, sometimes we run into that, where we're suddenly like, things aren't working as expected, and one of the first questions we'll ask each other in the community is, did you attach all the hoses? Is the PTO attached? And there was nobody from the FSN folks to remind me of that same question, but that may simply be the problem, which at the end of the day, if that's it, other than it being a little embarrassing and being a lesson for folks here, to see if they try to join the community, for them to not do and learn from, at least I'll be able to go use my truck. Alright, fingers crossed that when I pull through here, I'll be able to now get rid of wood chips. I have the right thing selected. Look at that. Silly me. Alright, so $1,100, which is not great. Pine trees are better. So for those of you who hadn't joined at the beginning, the other thing within FSN that they do to kind of discourage people just going crazy on cutting down trees is we're required to buy permits to cut down trees, and a permit is $750 per tree. So that means I spent $2,250 in permitting to cut down those 3 trees, and I got only $1,100 back from selling the remnants from those trees. So it cost me money there. So I'm going to pull up my mini map. So these fields here you can see are dark blue. These are all part of Wild Moose, which is the guy across from me at 97. So he tends to do a lot of hay, a lot of grass work, as you can see. And he owns pretty much every field down this road at this point. So he stays pretty busy. And then the green up to the left here is Green Corp, whose homestead is up near the shop, which is where we're headed to get our supplies. So at this point I need to top up my lime, my seeds, and I think my fertilizer, I'm going to have to take a look when I get back with the truck with the first load of lime. So I know I depleted all my lime when I was getting the fields ready for the hemp. And I think that episode is up already of doing the lime and so forth, so you should be able to see that if you haven't, and how that process went. A little bit of lag. It happens once in a while sometimes. And sometimes it has to do with the saves on the server. Sometimes we don't know. But having those straw swaths down, that again is something we're kind of encouraged to get rid of in a day or two because of the impact to the servers as well as far as performance. So, and I know the gentleman who runs Wild Moose is from Sweden, and so obviously at this point for him it's getting pretty late, but he was on a little bit earlier. So, Cholin, what do we do with all the money once all the fields are bought? It depends. So, there's definitely plenty of things for you to do with the money if you're interested in doing things outside of directly in Farming Simulator. So there's a whole other aspect to FSN, which they refer to as the meta side, which is the web side. The resource exchange is part of that, so that's kind of one that overlaps and kind of straddles both sides because you're getting crops in some cases from Farming Simulator farmers. But within the resource exchange you can also do things like mining and minerals and so forth, and so you own mines within the meta side, and it actually has its own separate website now. It's the Entrepreneurs site instead of just the FSN site. So Hans, who's the guy who created FSN, made the decision around the 2nd anniversary to split the websites, because there are some people who come to FSN and just do the meta. They're not interested in doing Farming Simulator. And if you do those, I do not, because I just prefer the Farming Simulator side of it. But if you do those, you can spend millions and millions of dollars there. And it's actually a little bit, well, substantially easier to make money on the meta side, which is why you can move money between the farming side and the web side, but you're limited as to how much money you can move from the meta side into farming because of the fact that you can make a lot of money over there if you get into that and do that. So you can almost think of it as like a text-based sim, I guess, on the meta side. But they've got things like virtual racing, mining, transportation. So I own 2 trucks on the meta side, which basically you just pick up contracts and you run them, and your drivers can get trained up, and you get points that then you can use to train them in various skills and get certified. So like I'm trying to save up right now to get heavy haul certification for my 2 drivers. That's one of the few things I don't have for them. And so when I joined FSN, I ended up, somebody was selling trucks and trailers very, very cheaply, because normally they're about $100,000. They were willing to sell them for $5,000, so I'm like, sure, I'll try that. But I just found, as I said, I'd prefer the Farming Simulator side. And so I haven't done a lot there, but you can definitely stay pretty busy. The other thing you can do if you want to kind of stay in the Farm Simulator side is you can work as a contractor, and new people that come on have to be contractors for 30 days before they can be FMs. You can hire contractors to work on your farm, so you can own a lot more land than you could farm yourself as a single player. And that includes owning land on other servers. So you're able to own it out. You can rent the land, you can lease the land to other FMs. So there's a lot of things you can do. But yeah, so it's more than just, hey, buy land and buy equipment. So the next question on the truck sim, now if you're talking about the logistics within the meta side, there isn't direct interplay other than they're developing a way that when you send, because when you send crops, I mentioned like there's a warehouse attached to this server, which happens to be Baku, Azerbaijan for this server. But then when you look at the resource exchange, you can determine that another city or country has better rates and you want to ship your crops to that location. What they added recently is when you do those transportation contracts, before they just used to be automated shipping contracts where you'd put them in and then it would take 2 or 3 days and then your crop would show up. Now they've added the ability that players can pick up those transportation contracts to transport those crops in the resource exchange. But the other piece that they're working on for the future, and there's no set date on that yet, is they're looking to integrate to American Truck Simulator and Euro Truck Simulator and try to I'm gonna tip this truck if I'm not careful. And they're looking to do that, and they're also talking about potentially linking it to Microsoft Flight Simulator in some way. So I'm not quite sure how that's all going to look, because that's all right now just in discussion. We've been told that they're working on that from the programming side, but not quite sure exactly how that's all going to work. And on the FS22 side, what they're trying to figure out right now is the production buildings, what kind of permitting is going to be required in FSN to either own or operate the productions. Not quite sure how that's going to lay out. So the custom silo is something that's unique to FSN too. That's how we get our crops on and off the map. So, well, not on the map, but off the map. So if I want to sell, direct sell, or resource exchange, I need to move my crops over to that silo, which is partially why I love this land here, because I'm very close to the custom silo. And then basically what happens is someone else will come in and grab the contract off the website and transport it to any sell point on the map, and that's how the crops leave the map, per se. So, like I said, there's a lot going on in FSN, which is part of what I really enjoy about it, because there's just a lot happening. I'm on the wrong side. I'm like, why can I not jump this out? Because I'm at the point where I can load my truck, not the point where I can unload my truck. Yeah, Cholin, no problem. I mean, that's part of why I'm doing the video series, and part of why I I'm happy to do the live stream and stuff. Is it's exactly the same thing. I was lucky enough to have found this really early on. I've got over 2,000 hours in Farm Simulator 2, but I haven't even been playing it a year yet. I started last April. And part of why I got so sucked into it was just finding FSN right away, because it really changes the gameplay. And like I said, there was a possibility there were going to be some other FMs on here, but looks like maybe they got busy and they're not going to show up. But, from a multiplayer standpoint, it's different than being on servers that could get deleted or, again, don't run in real time. Because the challenge ends up being if you don't get on, like if I couldn't get on to harvest my crops the last couple of days, and honestly, even what happened with my hemp was a little bit of my own problem. And I think those episodes aren't quite up yet, where I'm harvesting the hemp. Well, actually, I know they aren't because I'm actually in the middle of editing it. I was doing that just before I came on. I had to spend so much time harvesting the crops 2 days ago that I was just like, I just need to get off the server. I've been on here for 8 to 10 hours, and it was New Year's Eve, and I'm like, it might be nice to spend some time with my family, so forth and so on, and it's not going to rain tomorrow. I'll get the crop off tomorrow, which would have been yesterday, and the crops were only dry for an hour yesterday. So because I chose not to stay on 2 days before, I basically created my own issue where I couldn't get that crop off the field because the server continues to run whether I'm ready to engage with it or not. So you do have to be aware of that if you're trying to join FSN, is you do have that somewhat real-time commitment, and that determines how much you buy and so forth. Hey, Michael. So I'm just replenishing my materials in my silos now. So you missed cutting down trees and straightening out my field edge, plowing my field edge at one point, and we're just kind of talking about FSN and what it's about. So, and yeah, Cholin, I do find too, I mean, like you said, you've got a lot of time in Farm Sim, but you've never heard of FSN. It is kind of one of the better kept secrets out there. They don't really advertise. Yeah, so continuing to answer your question. So the seasons, each day, it's 3-day seasons is what the servers are set to. So no, it just happens to be that it's winter because it's winter. So in the FSN world, we are in year 75. So basically, at this point, since FSN started, these servers have gone through, 74 years. We're almost done with 75 years. So every year is 12 days in real life. And so what I do is I've got a spreadsheet that actually I can look up any day, and it'll tell me what it will be in FSN on the calendar, which is partially what I did when I was kind of laying out this live stream today. And I'm like, oh, it'll be winter, so that'll be great. It'll be a good time to do a live stream, show people some stuff that we can only do in winter, and so forth. So basically, yeah, in the next 2 days it'll be midwinter, late winter, and then we'll start year 76 on, I guess it would be Wednesday, because yeah, Monday, Tuesday will be the last 2 days of winter. And so honestly, I do that, I have that spreadsheet because if I've got a vacation coming up or something, I need to determine, am I even going to plant crops that year? Because if I know I'm not going to be available for harvest, there's no point in putting crops in the ground to have them die. And there are requirements if you are a farm manager in FSN. You're required to actively work your farm once every 3 game years, which basically amounts to, in essence, once a month. So even if you don't have a ton of time, you can still participate in FSN. It's just... I'm moving my truck here because I see the pup trailer somehow got hooked on the leg, and when I pull forward I'm not going to be able to get there. But there are times, like right now during the holidays, there's several FMs who just have let us know. And again, as the quote-unquote mayor of the server, the one who pays the sponsorship for the server, I'm in essence the eyes and ears of FSN management to make sure that people kind of live up to that. So if I've got an inactive farm manager, because we've always got a waiting list of people wanting to get in and actively run farms, there's a process for removing inactive farm managers, because again, it's not a lot of fun on the servers if you've just got a lot of farms that aren't being used. But for the holidays, a lot of people have said, hey, I'm going to step away for this year, for this game year, because, you know, I'm going to be doing a lot of things for the holidays in real life. And, you know, obviously other things happen. We've had several farm managers who, you know, they've had babies, they've had to step away for a little bit, you know, and usually we work through it. You know, you can usually find a good fit in FSN regardless of how much time you have to play, but you do need to be aware if you're trying to actively be a farm manager. You know, there's certainly requirements to do it, but if you just keep your holdings small, it doesn't require that much time. You can certainly do it in a few hours a week. Yeah, chillin'. So yeah, the spreadsheet video, I figured I'd put that up today, because I knew I was doing the live stream later in the afternoon. So I'm like, well, rather than have two gameplay type videos that appear, let me just show you what I do on the analysis of the farm to try to make decisions. So yeah, there are FS22 servers. Of the 200 servers in FSN, 50 of them right now are FS22, and they're really still kind of coming online. Some of that had to do with some Giants problems they had at one point. The first week and a half, they couldn't actually get certain things working on the servers because of some issues Giants had to solve, which they did. So there are farm managers just getting moved in. And our intent on this server is eventually to convert this to an FS22 server as well. But we like maps, you know, all the farm managers on here, which is why we're on this map. We like this hilly terrain a little bit smaller. So like I know, Cholin, you had asked about Hastings earlier. We actually talked about that today with I was talking with two of the FMs that we're on, and we've kind of all agreed we're not really interested in running something like Hastings, because we feel for what we've got to do here, it would not be fun for us. It would be too boring because we'd be spending 10-12 hours on a field, just running up and down, where here the fields are small enough that we've got enough variation and we can do different things. And this is a 4X map, I believe. So we're waiting for something like that to come out on FS22. And basically, in FSN, you apply... yeah, I wouldn't call you a snob. I agree, the small maps are too small. I mean, that's part of why I struggle with getting into FS22 myself right now, is the base maps, I think, are too small. But... you know, they've got to do something for new players coming in and having them do things. So I would agree a 4X is the sweet spot, and that's kind of what we talked about, is maybe we would look at an 8X. Because the other problem we talked about, which you can see a little bit of just what I'm doing here, is on a 16X map, the transport gets crazy. I mean, you spend so much time moving things around. And because you've got to take your crops to the custom silo, or to sell points, it just gets difficult. Hey, how you doing? Well, I know it's not owner, because it looks like it's Cyrillic alphabet, so I'm assuming you might be Russian or whatever, but yeah, I'm not sure what VUN.rent means, but hey, welcome. Glad to have you here. So yeah, like I said, I'm happy to answer anything, because otherwise it gets pretty boring watching me drive trucks, so I'm happy to talk while I do this. I have to see how much I've got. I think at this point this might be it. Yeah. And Cholin, you're right on the 16X, because there are servers that run Wild West in FS19 and FSN, And that's actually my first in-game experience in FSN was on a Wild West map. I contracted to harvest a field for someone, and there were 4 of us on there for 9 hours on a Saturday, and we barely got the field done. And that's exactly the challenge with the 16x map, is unless you can get a mob of contractors, which again has cost, because the in-game rate, the way we pay, contractors get paid $5,000 an hour, and you'll either do that as a contract, or you'll get, if you're a farmhand with a farmer, sometimes you'll just send them an invoice and get paid that way. Like what I would do as a contractor is I would just invoice my farm managers once every season. So every 3 days I would send them an invoice for the time I spent on their farm doing whatever it was I was doing. But you're able to do it immediately if you want. You know, there's no specific rules. All right, so I have 160,000 in lime. I don't need any more liquid fert. I need seed, so I'll run some seed next. And then, or that's herbicide down there. This is liquid fert. Yeah, I might run some liquid fert too, but yeah, so I just need seed. I don't think I need, so I've got 141,000 in fertilizer, so I'm good. But yeah, on the 16x maps on Wild West, I mean, regularly I was a farm manager for someone who's now actually a contractor on this map, for many years on their Wild West farm. And yeah, at the end of the year, running crops up to the sell point, that would be like a 4-hour job to transport things. And it's one thing when you're doing it as a contractor once in a while, but to have that be your home base, we just felt it was too much. So yeah, our group is just waiting to move to FS22 until we find a map we like. And in the meantime, we're happy to keep these farms going, because it just lets us build up money when we move over to the FS22 servers, because we'll basically have to sell off everything we own here, and then, you know what, this whole setup is, he actually just put this up recently. I was gonna say this cow barn and whatever wasn't even here. Yeah, and I'd agree, Joel, and it's definitely, you got to find that balance. So there's a lot of people that will, complain about they can't, like right now when we went to FS22, because a lot of people just wanted to move to the servers, there has been a little bit of a contractor shortage, and so there was some complaining that people were doing about, I can't find contractors, I can't do whatever, and kind of management's response was, well, maybe you grew too big, and so now might be the time to downsize, because the reality of it is what it is. Like, if people are interested in doing FS22 and they don't want to go back on the FS19 servers and run contracts, that's one thing, but yeah, you got to have fun, and you got to figure out how much time you really have. But like I said, there's a way to figure it out. So my process is similar to that. Like, I have stopped buying land because I'm at the limit of what I can manage myself, and I'm not necessarily as interested in running contractors, because having done that in the beginning, I know how difficult that is sometimes to find contractors. Like one farm I helped with, he had 600 dairy cattle, or maybe it was a little more than that. He had 6 dairy barns, and I think, so he had 1,200 dairy cattle, because yeah, you can have about 200 cattle per barn. And he had like 10 of us as contractors on his farm, and there was just a lot of people who would show up and do it for a week, and then so you're constantly training people, so it becomes more of a human resources game where you're hiring and firing contractors than actually farming. And so I kind of decided to do enough of that in real life with my real job. I don't need to do that in the game here. So I'm trying to figure out, I'm guessing those VUM rent, VUM NGO, because I know sometimes those show up as comments. I'm assuming those are bots that somehow have joined the chat. I didn't even know they could do that. No, you cannot use the game-based hired workers or AI. So that is not allowed either. And there's also no contracts. So, you know, if I go to the contract list here, you'll see there's currently no contracts available. So the only contracts that can be done are basically players who need work done. And so, again, you know, as far as showing you that or whatever, if you go back to the first video in the series, I cover some of that and show some of that. And then there's also FSN how-tos where I cover different aspects too, as far as customs contracts and so forth. So, you know, I do have stuff out there, you know, but certainly feel free to ask me questions either in comments on the video or, you know, once we're done here. You know, obviously you can keep asking here, but once we're done here, you know, I'm always happy to answer, because the more people we get, the more folks we have to play with. So always looking to get more folks in the community if they're interested. So yeah, your only way to get help in FSN is from another human, from another player within the community. And yeah, I mean, expanding further on your earlier question, Sholin, about, you know, other ways to use your money beyond land. I talked about some of the resource exchange, but there's also things set up about real estate brokers. There's dealerships where you can buy and sell equipment. So again, I can buy my truck in game, or for example, like my tractor and my harvester, I bought those from a dealer because I was able to get a better deal from the dealership. And then basically the FSN operations team will deliver it here to the store. Everything happens on a 24 to 72 hour timeline. So basically, and then there's also auctions. So you can sell your equipment on auction or buy equipment on auction and get it at, you know, different prices. And that all happens on the FSN website. So yeah, I mean, if you're interested in joining, you just need to look up FSN, and basically the process is you fill out an application, and then you go into what's called the whitelist process, where you've got to basically be active and answer questions on Discord and on the website. And you know, if they feel you're a good fit for the community, eventually you'll get admitted. But the key there is, what they always point out is it's a whitelist, not a wait list. So there are people that don't ever get in, or have been there for months and don't get in, and you know, there's sometimes people that get in pretty quick. So yeah, it just depends. Roughly how many of mods? I'm trying to remember. So there is, so yeah, one of the things, and again, I do cover it in more detail in one of the early videos, and I think it's in the FSN how-tos of how to get the mods down and so forth, and the maps. It's not too bad. I want to say it's maybe 30 or 40. Yeah, 30 or 40 gig might be too big. I know I have it in that video. I mean, it'll definitely be there, but it's not substantial, so there's only a certain amount of mods, because there isn't much that is run. I mean, there's enough to definitely keep it interesting, but there's only certain approved FSN mods, and part of it is what they shoot for across all the maps is balance. So even though you're on a 16x map or a 4x map, they want it to basically be the same economically, so that someone doesn't gain an advantage just because of where they're playing. So based on that, like all the maps can do all the same crop types. So they're all the maps are modded to accept the crop types that we grow in FSN, which are, you know, a lot more than the base game. And then the equipment is also modified. So like this truck, I think if you use these lizard trailers in single player, I think their capacity is 125,000, but you can see here they're 80,000. So I'm going to slow down here and kind of, so this is the custom silo, and so back there past the trees are the FSN trucks, and so there's always 2 tractors, 2 dumps, and 1 tanker at the custom silo is what is FSN equipment. Those dumpers hold 100,000, and the tanker does as well. And basically the agreement in FSN is there's no piece of equipment that has more capacity than FSN. Like the FSN equipment is always the largest, and some of that is again to just encourage a little bit more realistic gameplay. So there's also kind of the rule that Hans will talk about of the you know, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it rule. So if someone gets caught, like in single player, you might hook up a seeder with a seed tender that don't go together, but the game lets you do it. Or you might put like 3 trailers together because the game lets you do it. Like you're not allowed to do something that wouldn't be realistic. So you're only able to have these 2 dumps. This is really like the biggest configuration you can have as an FM is these 80,000 liter trucks, and sometimes they're changed for capacity too. And so no, the answer is, does each server have a different mod set? No, they do not. They have the same mod set. They'll have a different map. The only difference between servers is there are DLC servers, so if you've bought the Giants downloadable content packs, there are servers that support that. This is not a DLC server. I don't have the DLC, neither do, well, I mean, the FMs may have the DLC, but they're choosing to play on this server. I think this will be all I'm going to do on this. No. Actually, no, I can get another load of seeds, so yeah, what I usually like to do in the winter is just top everything off once I get low, and then I don't have to get things for a couple years. So then, obviously, the map will be different, and you can download the maps one at a time. Because yes, if you download all the maps, I think there's 50 or 60 different maps in. It might not be quite that high, but it's at least 30 or 40. And obviously with each map potentially being a gig, you could be talking 30 or 40 gig of maps. But unless you're doing work on any of those, you don't necessarily need to get each map. And so once again, the way the website's set up is you basically would go to the download link for the server to get the map that you need. And there are multiple servers that run the same map, so at last count I think there were 10 or 12 servers that run this Seneca County map. It's honestly one of the more popular maps in FSN, but there are some servers that they're the only one that runs the map. So if you never go on that server, if you're not going to be a contractor or you're not going to be an FM there, like, you don't need to download that map. And there's a mix of European maps and US maps. And again, there's a couple logging maps as well. I think Fenton Forest. And I don't remember. There's one other one, I think. But no, the equipment on any server in the mod set, they're all exactly the same. So the store on this server versus a store on another server will look identical. So that's one of the nice things too, is the FSN team like works really hard to keep everything equal. Yeah, I just saw your comment a couple up, Cholin. 4.5 hours on 160 acres is not too bad, because it's about what I have here is 160 acres across all my fields, and when I harvest those, that's double that time. Although, I don't know, you're saying two 12-row corn headers, so it sounds like maybe you've got 2 harvesters running, so maybe that would be about right, because then that would be 9 hours, and that's probably how long it would take me to harvest all 7 of my fields. It'd be a little bit longer because obviously I'm having to do it all manually, and I can't, again, have anything unloading the combine automatically like you can in single player and so forth, so. Yep. Yeah, I saw your comment there, Cholin, so yeah, definitely. Yeah, you're not having to do a lot of runs if you're just, yeah, dropping it at a silo locally there along the field for certain. So after this run, I'm not sure I've got... I mean, I can always do more stuff. There's always something to do. And since amazingly the ground isn't frozen, in theory I could plow. But we're coming up on 2 hours, and not sure if people want to hang around and see some more. I can keep the stream going, I suppose. But I'm probably gonna wrap things up relatively soon anyway. But I may start plowing some of the fields, because I think most of my fields are at the point where they require me to plow before I can plant again. And unfortunately, I'm gonna have to plow under my hemp at some point too, so. Alright, so The good news with having plenty of money in the account is you don't really have to worry how much the supplies cost, but obviously the price of the supplies stays the same, so it doesn't fluctuate. But so yeah, my big debate now is, do I want to move more money into the server from the website side, because I've done most of my crop sales the last few years on the web, because I can make 150 to 200 more per liter, either through direct sell or through the resource exchange. And so most of my money is out at the web, and I haven't been moving a lot into the server because of the possibility of moving to FS22. But as it's becoming more and more likely that we're going to have several more months on the server here before we find a map we like and that might be able to pass the FSN process of getting in, I may move some more funds in here, because I like to kind of keep it around $1 million, just so I don't have to have any concern about running out of money at any point. But very different than the first few years on the server, where I was scrounging for pennies everywhere. So yeah, the other thing that might be of note or of interest is you are not allowed to merge fields in FSN either. Like, you're allowed to, you know, what I did, like expanding mine a little bit within the footprint of the area is one thing, but you can't combine fields together, especially across plots, because obviously if you sold your plot off, then suddenly there's a problem with the dividing line. Alright. Yeah, I'm looking forward to an FS22 seeing a map kind of of any of the quality that, you know, like something we're on here, that's just really well done, looks lived in, isn't just flat. So that's kind of the thing I'm hoping for and can't wait to see, is, you know, some of the more mature maps that, you know, we've been able to get 3 years in into FS19. I'm sure they'll come, but I know we're not there yet. So even not having finished borders and so forth is a challenge. So hopefully everybody had a good New Year's, and at least got to do a little bit of what you wanted to do. We're not locked down per se, but we are kind of hunkering down ourselves, just because the infection rates in our neck of the woods have gone up quite a bit. So just trying to stay safe. So we had a pretty quiet New Year's at home, but yeah, I think you're right, Joel, and I think we are months away, which is why, you know, the FMs here we've all been talking about, just maybe being happy with what we got and keep working it. I mean, we love this map, and the one thing we did all agree on is the last thing we want to do is kind of ruin the experience by moving to something too quickly and then not enjoying it, because it's not really that simple to, and it may not even be possible to move back, because I'm quite sure the operations team isn't going to be looking to move servers back from FS22 to FS19. So I think once we make that commitment to go to FS22, we're committed. And so, yeah, we'd rather wait for a good map. And right now the explanation from the folks that run it is they'll keep supporting and maintaining the FS19 servers as long as people want to keep playing on them. So there's no pressure to get off. Oh, you know what? I need to repair the truck and stuff. It's in pretty bad shape. We're at 20%, 10%. I usually do it every time I come back, but sometimes I forget. Fascinated, for whatever reason these trailers don't seem to get dirty, which helps with washing them, but it doesn't seem to matter how much I use the trailer, they stay clean. The truck, on the other hand, it seems to collect the dirt for everything. So yeah, I can't say I've ever seen it be enforced for me or whatever, but there's even rules like kind of just respecting the cleanliness of the equipment and so forth. Oops. Somehow I ended up on my other monitor there. So yeah, so if you don't clean your equipment, you could have a situation where sorry about that. Didn't mean to do that, but you could get fined for not cleaning your equipment if a warden comes in and things are sloppy. Alright, so now I'll park the trailer. Alright, so let me take a look at my map. Alright, so it looks like these fields that I had the hemp on need plowing. The oat fields do not. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of that if people want to hang around and chat while I get that work done, or at least some of it. I'm not quite sure how much I'm going to do because we're hitting about 2 hours that I've been on, and I'm kind of at the point where I need to stop soon, but I'll stick around for a bit longer if folks are interested. head up and do this one, so just because I'm here. Oh, and I need to make sure that I'm limiting it to the fields, so that I don't want to suddenly widen my field by accident. That would be bad. I always get nervous after I've been creating fields or widening them, because the graphic on the side of the plow still just looks like dirt's getting thrown up, and I'm always like slightly concerned, like, oh god, it's widening the field, but luckily it's not, so everything's good. On this field, I usually run a couple passes up at the top, so I have enough room to turn around, because this is the only place I can put my hay lofts, because we're not really allowed, or my bale storage, because we're not allowed to terraform, because again, that has a performance hit to the servers. So we need to look for the flattest spot we can. Obviously on this map, that's a challenge to find anything truly flat. So this is as close as I was able to get on the server here. So if there's anything else anyone wants to chat about, like I said, I'm all game to talk about anything, because we are now entering the world of FSN work, winter or otherwise, that is pretty standard, which is now I'm just settling in to do the repetitive up down work. Gotta clean this one up here. Now that I know I'm not expanding the field. Alright, so I'm gonna go make the north-south run at the start on this edge. Just because it's habit. Not really any other reason. Normally I'd be doing the fields together, and I may do the first part of 30, depending on how far I get here, but whoops. Did not lock into the track yet. But yeah, at this point, that is what I wanted to do for the winter. There's one other tree that I'm just obviously not sure enough about that I want to deal with, especially given that I think it's also a birch, and seeing how little I got for it, not really too thrilled about spending another $750 in a permit to get a fraction of that in wood chips. So, but that's over on 85, 86 in the corner. of 86 where I'm always kind of struggling to just get around there. It would be nice to have a little bit more room, but that may be something I do in another winter, because I do not enjoy tree work. And you know, for those who were here at the beginning, you kind of saw the challenge that it is here, given that there's not a lot of automation allowed, so no auto-loading trailers, nothing like that. So you gotta really want to remove a tree to do it. But yeah, at this point, this is kind of what I'm gonna finish up with, is just do the plowing, and I'll likely I'm not gonna finish the plowing for certain, so just do a few more minutes here, unless folks have got something else to bring up, and we'll call it a live stream, because it's starting to get dark on the server, and I don't know that I feel like working at night today. So usually I enjoy the 3 days off, or usually it's 4 days off on this server given the cold geo. So we usually can't plant the first day of spring. But I usually like the 3 days off in the winter, so I'm probably going to take advantage of that too. And just relax and do something else, and it might be go to work on a FS22 series or something like that. But there I can at least make sure I'm doing things in the daylight, and obviously here it's early winter, so it's getting dark already. Oh, we've got someone joining the server. Here we go. Maybe I'll hang out for a little bit longer. So this is Wild Moose Farms across the way. Again, I think I told you guys he was from Sweden, as you can tell by his name. So yeah, I think this is the same across any multiplayer server. I've honestly not played on any other multiplayer servers than FSN, but you know, this isn't an FSN specific thing. So when someone's coming in, you gotta wait. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter. So yeah, I'm not sure if we've still got, if any of you guys are still on. Screens I've got up don't give me any information that I can see on that. So I'm just curious if you guys would be interested in any more of the FSN live streams, if this is something that would be worthwhile to do on the weekends, because I can certainly do that if people have an appetite for it. So yeah, let me know in the chat, or if you see this afterwards as a replay, let me know in the comments. Because definitely, if we have interest, it's something I'm willing to do, because I'm doing the work anyway. And obviously, given the 12-day seasons, we're going to have a different type of season every weekend than we will. It's not, it's not going to be winter every time. Winter will come up periodically, but and I didn't look ahead, so I don't know Right, Cholin? That's good to know. So, is this a good time, or is it better to have them later in the day? You know, the problem is later in the day we're going to be working on the server in the dark, but yeah, I know with the delay, I see your chat later than you probably put it in. You don't hear me responding to it because of that till later. And then I know there's a delay in the stream actually showing you what I just said, so. Yeah, let me take a look. I know. Right, so Swede's over on... Well, actually, he may have just popped in. That's the spawn point on the server, so it doesn't look like he's actually moved. I mean, he does own those fields, but... So, right. So yeah, I'll keep that in mind, see if... You know, maybe I won't do them. I probably won't do them every weekend, but, you know, I'll do what I did this time. If I think I've got something interesting coming up that lines up that I can do, I will put things out a few days ahead of time like I did with this one so that people can plan ahead. And we'll see how those go and go from there, because certainly it's a lot more fun to be interacting with folks and speaking about things and talking about things than just talking to myself, recording a video, and you know, most of the time watching this go up and down the field, because obviously just for the regular videos I'm cutting a lot of things, because putting 8 or 10 hours of video out there, hey, I don't even know YouTube would let me do it, but I know for certain nobody'd be watching it because there's not a whole lot to watch. It's not quite like watching paint dry. I guess it's like watching fields being plowed, but you know, just like anything, it's a lot more fun when you're doing it than when you're watching it. But I'm definitely glad for the few that popped in today, so I want to thank you guys for showing up and spending some of your time with me. Definitely appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed yet and are interested, certainly please do that. That obviously helps the channel, and you know, like the videos and so forth, so they get distributed to more people and we get some more growth and we get some more folks on the next live stream, so that there's a lot more activity going on and more to talk about. But yeah, at this point I'm thinking it doesn't look like we've got anybody actively on the server, so there isn't anything else we could jump into to help with, for example. But at this point we're coming up on 2 hours 15 minutes, so I'm gonna wrap this up. And once again, definitely thank you guys for coming along on the ride and popping in. You know, I definitely appreciate it, especially a small channel like myself, just starting out. You know, being really active in the last couple months. I know everyone's got a lot of things that you can choose to spend your time on, and I'm definitely humbled that you guys chose to spend some of your time with me. And hope to see you again. So enjoy your afternoon.